dirt bike test. Today we are breaking down the 2026 Triumph TF450E and the 2025 GasGas EC450F. And the Triumph is their new competition off-road enduro bike. So both bikes are pretty much in the same category, very similar build specs and whatnot, and the same intended purpose. So we thought we have both bikes here. Why not break down this Triumph's latest offering for the enduro off-road segment, as well as GasGas's 450 off-road model. So starting off with the two bikes, the Triumph is essentially all stock aside from some different tires, and it has mooses in it. The stock, it comes with some enduro Michelin tires that aren't really all that great for the riding out here on the West Coast. So we threw our favorite tires on the GasGas, as well as put some mooses in to prevent some flats. And the GasGas is essentially mostly stock, aside from tires and mooses as well on that bike. And it does have some suspension valving in it, though with stock springs. This is a bike that we raced quite a bit earlier in the year, but we put the stock springs back in it. It still has the valving that the guys raced with, so it's not totally stock. We're not going to tarp too much on the suspension in this test, but I did ride the bike stock long enough to get a good feel for it and compare it a little bit against the Triumph suspension. But mostly we'll start with the motors on both bikes, and this is where both bikes are pretty stark difference. In stock trim, the Triumph is much more lively, much more exciting, pulls harder, revs further, just much more lively, more of a race-inspired engine, I feel like. Not to say that the GasGas is bad by any means. The GasGas is very smooth, very linear, very torquey. Doesn't really rev out all that much, but down low makes pretty good power, and into the mid-range it pulls pretty good, but it's not super exciting. So it's very easy to ride. Any novice, intermediate, level rider could hop on that GasGas and feel right at home. This doesn't have that kind of fear factor or that intimidation that typical 450 might have. So in that case, it's very easy to ride and very fun in its own way. But then you hop on this Triumph, and while it's not like a motocross 450 by any means, it bridges the gap between a full-fledged motocross engine and maybe like what someone like the GasGas is, where it has a good happy medium of has just enough excitement to be really fun and exciting and kind of get the adrenaline pumping, but still mellow enough that it's not a handful. You could take it in technical trails, you could take it in single track, and it's not going to be a handful for you. You can still kind of manhandle it a little bit. So I feel like the engine on this Triumph is probably the biggest standout feature, is just how exciting yet very easy and linear it is to ride. That kind of very suiting to pretty much riders of all types. Whether you're a pro or you're a beginner, you can kind of jump on the GasGas and feel mostly comfortable and have fun. Or on the Triumph, I should say. Whereas the GasGas, if you're an experienced level rider, you're someone that wants a little bit more power, more excitement, the GasGas might leave you hanging a little bit, at least in stock trim. But the Triumph has enough there that gets all the juices flowing in stock trim. One thing we did do with the GasGas and later in this test is we put an XCF muffler on it. So we took the stock enduro muffler off that's pretty choked up and put more open XCF muffler. And while the mapping isn't perfect in stock trim, especially in slow speed, tighter single track, low RPM situations, more of an open desert style riding, it really wakes up the engine. The Triumph is more kind of freer revving, quicker revving, more spool up, whereas the GasGas is a little bit more like chunky, girthy power. So while it does open it up quite a bit, it's still two different styles of power. And I think when they're both open up, it goes 50-50 on which power. Some riders like the Triumph power better, some like the GasGas power better with that open muffler on there. But both powers are very, very different once they are opened up. So at least as far as putting that open muffler on that GasGas. One thing to note is the transmissions. Both bikes are 6-speed transmissions. The GasGas is a pretty good transmission. All the spacing's very even, very good. Never felt like there's too small or too big of a jump between gears. I feel like they really have that dialed in. The Triumph now, from 1 through 5, they're pretty good spacing, but you get into the 6th gear, and it's a pretty big jump. If you're more of like a race, more aggressive riding, it's a little bit too big of a jump. But if you're out just trail riding, you're riding down the highway, down some fire roads, it is really nice to have that really tall 6th gear, almost like an overdrive where you click it up, you're lugging low RPMs, you're going fast without pushing the motor, you're not stressing the chassis, vibration, anything like that. You're really it's really mellow and easy to ride with that super tall gear. So like I said, that 6 gear on the Triumph, very tall, good and bad depending on what you're doing, but that is one thing that we noticed with the Triumph transmission. Moving on to the chassis. This is another pretty stark difference between the two bikes. The Triumph is a lot more like it was like a more longer, open, maybe more high-speed stability style chassis, whereas you jump on the GasGas, it feels a lot more compact, a lot more agile and nimble, feels a lot lighter on the trail as well. The GasGas, you definitely don't feel the weight maybe as much as you do on the Triumph. And not to say that the Triumph feels super heavy by any means, but in comparing the two bikes, the Triumph definitely feels like a longer, maybe more planted, more stable bike, whereas the GasGas, a lot more nimble, a lot more agile, corners better, easier to maneuver, easier to throw around on the trail. So that's two differences between the two chassis. I'd say both bikes have really good bump comfort. Neither of them really felt super harsh. Neither of them beat us up much. But just the GasGas, like you said, you jump on it, you feel like you're riding on top of it, and you can control the bike a little bit better. Whereas the Triumph, you feel like you're sitting more in it, and you're kind of along for the ride, and wants to go straight and go fast more than wants to turn in comparison to that GasGas. Moving on to the suspension, the GasGas still comes with the Explorer fork stock. Now the KTM and the Husky have the new spring fork, but the GasGas in particular still comes with that Explorer fork. And even in stock trim, we were actually pretty happy with it. I'd say overall, the GasGas, the suspension, feels like there's a little bit less movement in it in comparison to this Triumph. The Triumph, especially the fork in particular, it gets a little bit soft up front, a little divey, a little pitchy. Not to say that that's bad, but I feel like for higher level riders, especially in like the faster terrain like we're out here in the desert, these past couple weekends, that Triumph definitely gets a little bit soft, especially up front. And it's very controlled and everything, but we definitely found ourselves the front end getting low. You get hard on the brakes, the front end wants to dive a little bit and tuck. But that's just more of like a enduro style setting. Whereas the GasGas, we felt like with the 450 and stock trim, there's a little bit less movement through the stroke, which is good and bad. Like I said, some people like that, some people like more movement, just rider preference. But the GasGas felt like it had a little bit less movement through the stroke, a little bit better hold up, but maybe not quite as supple and plush through the rocks. So it's just two different styles of valving and suspension setup there. But so overall, both bikes right off the showroom floor are very competitive, and it doesn't take much to make these bikes really, really good. Because we took this GasGas, we put the open muffler on, put did suspension revalve, and our vet guys went racing and had zero problems with it. So this Triumph, I think a little bit of suspension work will go a long ways, and from there you really wouldn't need a whole lot. I think the engine in particular is already really good how it is. You could maybe mess around with some gearing to close up the gaps in the transmission a little bit. Play with some chassis setup, the fork height and chain length and whatnot, but overall both bikes are really, really solid. This GasGas, like I said, seems like it's more of a tighter confines, more single track oriented for 450, whereas the Triumph feels like it's better suited in the faster, more open terrain. But both bikes are well versed enough that you can transfer over to any realm and really feel comfortable and feel right at home. So if you want, hit us up at dirtbiketest.com. We'll have more on these bikes as well as a lot of other testing coming up. And until then, we'll see you out on the trail.
If you liked what you saw in this video, come check us out over at dirtbiketest.com on the webs. We have bike tests, product tests, a lot of fresh dirt, and you can even support us by clicking through our links. Hopefully, we'll see you out in the trail.